Hi, this is Tisch, Aitken. It is Friday, July 11th, and we have a lot of retrograde energy in a month where your thoughts will run wild. So the big kicker of the month is that Uranus, which is the final outer planet to change signs, ingressed into the mutable air sign of Gemini on July 7th. And it's going to remain in Gemini through November 7th. And this is pretty exciting. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, which happens to rule the sign of Gemini. Mercury rules the mind, thoughts, ideas, communication, and Uranus brings it to a whole other level, to a level of genius and innovation and thinking in new ways of really infinite possibilities. And Uranus will be transiting in the sign of Gemini through November 7th, and then it returns next year on August 25th and will remain in Gemini on and off through May 22nd of 2033, because Uranus takes approximately 84 years to orbit, and it remains about 7 years in each sign. And we're not done with Uranus in Taurus, and that again is waking up to values which maybe we no longer espouse, maybe we have let go of things, we are rethinking what matters, our self-worth, our talents and skills. And we just had a full moon in Capricorn. And this occurred yesterday at 18 degrees and 50 minutes of the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. And Saturn, which rules Capricorn in modern astrology, but it also rules Aquarius in ancient astrology, Saturn is just about to station retrograde on July 13th at 1 degree and 56 minutes of Aries. And this occurs at 12:07 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We feel that 5 days before and 5 days after, and this can intensify the pressure. And again, this full moon in Capricorn wants you to focus on your ambitions, on your goals, on what you're trying to achieve. But then we look at Saturn and what it's doing right now. Well, it just changed signs at the end of May, on the 24th of May, and ingressed into the sign of Aries, where it will remain through September 1st, and it will return to Aries on February 13th of next year. It's traveling along with Neptune, which retrograded on July 4th, at 2 degrees and 11 minutes of Aries. So they were within 15 minutes of one another. And they're going to get very close to the sky on July 17th. Not exact, but very close. They will meet up exactly on February 20th of next year at the very first degree of Aries, which is the world point impacting every one of us. But at present, we have Saturn's station. It won't retrograde officially until Sunday, July 13th, but we're feeling the pressure. You could feel more stuck. There could be delays. There are a lot of retrogrades this month. So again, you can feel like your mind is running in several different directions with Uranus and Gemini, and that can be highly exciting intellectually, and for new possibilities to make money, to learn, to network. I think it's a good combination in that Pluto is now in the sign of Aquarius, where it will be the next 19 years, and that's evolving technology, how we connect on a global level. But Uranus, which is the modern ruler of Aquarius, is now in Gemini and will come back next April. But it's in Gemini for several months, giving us new ideas and possibilities. And they're going to form a minor triangle. It's known as a minor grand trine, but it's really a triangle of magic. And that will occur later in August. from about August 20th to the 29th. It gets closer on the 29th. You're going to have Pluto in Aquarius at about 1.5, well, it's about 1 degree and I think 43 minutes at that point. Then you've got Neptune in Aries at 1.5 degrees, and you've got Uranus in Gemini at 1.5 degree of Gemini. So Pluto and Uranus and Pluto will be forming what's known as a trine when they're 120 degrees apart, and Neptune sextiles both Pluto and Uranus, meaning that it's 60 degrees over from Pluto in Aquarius and from Uranus in Gemini. Uranus will trine Pluto exactly next year on July 18th and on November 29th. And we do have Saturn sextiling Uranus, which Saturn is also working very closely with Neptune and is the big planet of the week because it ruled the full moon in Capricorn and is about to retrograde. But Saturn will form a helpful aspect to Uranus, the two rulers of Aquarius. Saturn representing structure and Uranus representing innovation, and that occurs on August 19th. And then we have that beautiful triangle of magic occurring, starts to perfect on August 20th. It gets closer on the 29th, and we're working with that really through the middle of September. And Uranus will retrograde on September 6th at 1 degree and 27 degrees of Gemini, and we will feel that 5 days before and 5 days after. And what's interesting about that is that Uranus retrogrades the day before the total lunar eclipse that will occur on September 7th. And Uranus always reminds me of eclipses in that you can have things happen completely out of the blue. They can be very revelatory and explosive and unpredictable and chaotic, and they can wake you up and make you see things in a way you never have before. That's true of eclipses and true of Uranus transits. So that's going to be pretty intense the beginning of September. But right now, we don't quite yet see the magic of Uranus in Gemini. But as we get later in the summer, even the end of July, but certainly early August, and by mid-late August, we're working with Uranus trining Pluto. That is phenomenal energy for connecting and learning new modalities, raising your frequencies. A lot more people will be learning energy work, Reiki, and many other forms of healing work, EFT tapping, manifesting, things that people do, but they'll be doing it much more frequently. It's going to become a lot more commonplace. All the different platforms that we're going to be engaging in, we already are on a lot. Well, that will expedite and accelerate. But again, bear in mind that we have Neptune just retrograded. Saturn retrogrades on Sunday, but we feel the station. Then we have Mercury, which is a personal planet that retrogrades about 3 times a year, right? Mercury retrogrades on July 18th at 15 degrees and 34 minutes of the fixed fire sign of Leo. And Mercury already entered its pre-retrograde shadow on June 30th when it got to 4 degrees and 15 minutes of Leo, where it will station direct on August 11th. So it will technically be retrograde from July 18th through August 11th, but we're already dealing with that energy, and Mercury will leave the sign of Leo altogether on September 2nd. I forgot when it clears its shadow in August, but we know it leaves Leo on September 2nd. And so that's another point retrograding. And then you have Eris, the goddess of discord, retrograding at 25 degrees of Aries, and that occurs on July 22nd. That reinforces the will to fight, but also starting things up, getting things going to, stir up the apple cart and get people, reacting and thinking about things. And then Chiron, the wounded healer, will retrograde on July 30th at 27 degrees of Aries. So we have a lot of points retrograding, including a personal planet. And again, Uranus is the biggest news of the month because it's in Gemini, where people are going to want to do so many things at once. And it can feel like trying to fall asleep with all the lights on in the house and a big rock band playing in your living room. And that could be cool if you can't sleep, but it could also be jarring. And that energy is at play where you're going to want to jump and do many things, yet there are several retrograde points. Saturn and Neptune. Well, Saturn and Neptune are funny energy together. They're not quite exact. They get close. Not exact till next February. But they haven't met up exactly in the sky since November of 1989, because they meet up approximately every 37 years. So that's going to be a big deal because they'll meet up directly next February. And that was when the Berlin Wall came down in November of 1989. Saturn, a structure and a symbol. Neptune got dissolved in Capricorn, a symbolism of communism. And now it's going to be in a whole new sign at the world axis, meaning impacting big world events, but every one of us. 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, in this case 0 degrees of Aries, which will happen next February 20th. We have choices. We are working with this. You may feel pressured. You may have delays. We're already pre-shadow Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is on the 18th. That's not that far away. And we just had the full moon. We had Neptune retrograde, which can make things feel confusing. But keep working with the dream. No magic lies ahead later in the summer, early fall. And next summer, we're going to have on July 19th and again 18th and again later in the summer, many of these triangles will be strong next year, for the next couple of years. So we're getting a preview. I wish you a lot of luck. Take care. If things are foggy or if you feel like you can't do it, Saturn is in its detriment, doesn't love being in Aries. Keep going. Keep working on that dream, Neptune, and what you want to evolve with Pluto and Aquarius on a communal level. This is going to bring societal and cultural shifts. This is going to be new ways of thinking, reframing our thinking, which we need to do. So don't be too hard on yourself with Saturn retrograding. It can make you feel like you don't measure up, and you do.